child that your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes and tell me if you take my place? Undercover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking. Undercover of my skin.
Welcome to the Inside Running Podcast, Geeks edition, the month of March. I'm joined here by Tommy DeCanto over in Sydney. It looks like home. Is that home or is that the clinic?
I'm at home today.
Beautiful. And Julian Spence over in Anglesey. Is that right?
No, I'm at work. I'm in Geelong.
Oh, you at work? Yeah, okay, good. Someone's got to
In
work.
my office, you can see.
There you go.
Security
Yeah.
camera.
Beautiful.
Dog next to me.
Oh, jeez, look at that.
Wow, that's a roomy, such a roomy cage.
Yeah.
Wow, he's running out of space.
Yeah,
This dog's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. How you guys been? You been well?
Yeah, busy, good.
You're both running a lot.
Yeah, you weren't happy with my increase in mileage last week, were you?
Mate, you went from 80 Ks, a sick week? It was a bit of a sick week, wasn't it? To about 180 Ks the week after. So
I'd planned on doing like the last couple of weeks building up, but leading into Run the Bridge, I had like a bit of a sore hammy, so I cut out a bit of running there, and then I got man flu. So I just playing catch up, you know.
But you ran well there. You were second Aussie across the line, fourth overall. Is that right?
Yeah, fourth bloke. Yeah, two Ugandans, Jimmy Hance, and then me.
So you beat some good people.
I think it's the first time I beat Liam Adams. I don't think he was too happy about it.
I don't think he's real fit because he came like third at
Come on,
running.
he's PB. He's definitely PB shape.
Toby beat him
What was this?
on Sunday at Run for the Kids.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Tommy
So
just like crushed in his head right now. He's doing the spine.
Toby's fit though. Toby's fit.
Another race, another Vaporfly experience for you.
Yeah, so I got and I guess we can all chat about it. Hopefully, I did get a pair of the Saucony Endorphin Elite, and I was going to race in it, but I did a couple of runs in it, and to me, it still didn't feel quite like it was hitting my sweet spot of what I like a super shoe to do. So I reverted back. So came to race day. I was like, look, I just want to race in what I know feels good and works well. So I raced.
Explain that, Tom. You explained to us about a sweet spot of bottoming out for you. And I like the concept. I haven't really thought of it that way before. But you talked about a shoe needs to have a degree of compliancy, and you've got a bit of a sweet spot you like in terms of it getting down low enough, and you're finding the Endorphin Elite you can't compress deep enough.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of the main reasons I don't think I gelled with it was the amount the midsole compressed. So we just call that compliance of the midsole. And I reckon so. Obviously, the other factor is the resiliency. So I think the two key factors for a good performing foam is the compliance or the softness, and then the resiliency, which is the energy return. And I think there was marketing I heard around the Saucony Endorphin Elite having this Power Run HG foam, which is a new foam, having more resiliency. So it's got more energy return than the Power Run PB.
Yep.
But it doesn't feel as soft or as compliant. So to me, running in it, yes, it feels poppy, but it doesn't compress down as much during the middle of mid stance, early push off. So it just feels to me, there's wasted midsole there. I'm not compressing at all, which essentially, because it's the benefit of the compliance is you're basically getting a longer spring. So if you feel like it's compressing down a lot, and if it's resilient, then it's going to bounce back that same amount that you compressed it, which essentially means you've got a longer spring on your foot. And so the Elite just didn't feel like it had a long spring. It just felt like it had this little. I've heard the analogy before of a mini tramp versus a normal trampoline. So I can't remember who said that, but that's kind of what it feels like. It's like these little mini, like a mini tramp, like a little bit down and pops you up, or like a trampoline where you can really feel like your whole body or your foot compressing into the midsole and then popping back
Gives
out.
you more back. Yeah.
So like for me, like when I run in the Zoom X foam, the compliancy of that, it just feels soft enough that with the stack height in the Vaporfly, it feels like I get close to the bottom without bottoming out. So I never feel like I'm bottoming out, but I feel like it's compressing like a good 1-2 centimeters. I can feel it feels like a spring basically. I don't get that.
That's got to be relative to how much foam you compress over the whole distance of the shoe, doesn't it? So, for example, like if you hit back further on the shoe, you compress more foam from the back of the shoe through to the front of the shoe as you transition forward, you're less likely going to bottom the shoe out. But if you strike such a small surface area of the shoe with that impact, look, you can compress more the foam off that Elite, the Endorphin Elite, and get more back. And that's what I feel when I wear the Endorphin Elite. I still feel like I'm getting pretty deep into the shoe with the foam compression on the forefoot. But when I do that on the Vaporfly, I feel like the shoe disappears in the forefoot straight away and I'm at the bottom of the ground instantly. And so the return of energy feels like I need the shoe to go deeper even more to get the spring back. So I don't want that firm ending point. So the Endorphin Elite to me feels the closest to perhaps maybe the Adios Pro did in terms of the foam. Like it felt a bit firmer, but if I hit a small zone, I got more back from it. But the Rockers are more aggressive in this Endorphin Elite than the Pro was, I found. So yeah, but it slips a bit. So I'm not sure how that would have gone in Hobart.
Yeah. Hopper, who we've had on here before, he was worried at the start, and rightly so, because he slipped at like 2K in or something. He had a stack, banged up his knee, going around a roundabout. So yeah, it's not good grip in the wet, that's for sure.
Yeah. It's almost like if you've got a race coming up and it's going to be a little wet, you're going to have to take 2 pairs of shoes to the event because it's almost unserviceable in the wet.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. Plenty of good things. That's good. It's good, Tommy. And what, you're still training for Manchester? Is that right?
For Hamburg.
Sorry.
Yeah. I did have that was the little scare. Got an MRI today because I thought I had a bone stress, but it doesn't seem like it is. So I'm still going to keep training and just take some anti-inflams and just baby this foot through and see how it goes. So yeah, I think it's 5 weeks to go. So I wanted to get another couple of big weeks in. So we'll see how that goes.
Any races in between now and then, or is it just the volume?
There's nothing. I couldn't really fit anything in. That's it. So it was just there was around the bridge, and then I'll do one. I'll probably do one big kind of marathon, long run with a faster bit in it or something. But 1 or 2.
It looks like you're loading your fourth metatarsal a little bit as well. Obviously, when you're running. So have you tried to work out like if there's been any shoe contribution to that at all, or you've been shuffling between shoes to reconcile it, or what?
Well, we thought. You mean you were 10 minutes late, mate? So I was telling Moose that this maybe I shouldn't have been doing so many miles in the Nike Streak Fly. Yeah,
and the New Balance Rebel.
And yeah, I've been doing my long runs in the New Balance Rebel. Yeah,
you deserve this.
Well, yeah, so that's what I told you. I was like, when I thought I thought it was bone. I was like, what are all the factors? Okay, I made some mistakes with training, definitely, and then shoe choices questionable. But
the shoe choices allow you to make more errors, mate. So you wear a bit more beneath that shoe with a bit of a plate there. You offload those mets a bit more.
Yeah, well, this is going to bring us onto that study, isn't it? That we're going to chat about hopefully at some point. But I'm gonna go to back to a bit more of the Saucony Tempest. I am enjoying that shoe, so a bit more no plate, but Nimbus from Asics and the Saucony Tempest a bit more in the rotation.
Yeah, good. And that brings us on to you, Julian. You've been wearing more Nimbus 25, and you finally got the Super Blast, haven't you?
Yeah, I did. I have had the Nimbus 25 for a while, and I'm surprised at how much I like that shoe. It is a thicker upper, I can feel that, and the toe cap internally, I do catch the top of the toe cap with my toenails, which isn't great either, especially downhill. I feel like I slip in the shoe.
Did you go half up or did you stay true to size?
No, that is half up. That is actually half up. Yeah, so maybe if my toes are close to the end, I don't feel that meet point. But I reckon if I was close to the end, I'd get more toe soreness. So the fit's not perfect on it, but underneath it is a great recovery shoe, like just a super easy day shoe. And it's a really good contrast to the Super Blast, which I am holding here. So this is, if you looked at them together, you would think, similar shapes, really. Like broader underneath, higher stack. I don't even know what the offset of this is. Do you guys know off the top of your head?
I think it was 47.39, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 8 mil.
Yeah, so it's the same as a Nimbus then. But underfoot, it's just like you don't sink in the shoe like you do the Nimbus. This would be one of those shoes that's not that resilient, Tom. Or not that compliant.
Not that
compliant. Yeah.
Very resilient.
Yeah, so I was expecting it to be way softer because on paper it competes with the Invincible in terms of sort of what it does, but it doesn't feel like an Invincible at all.
No, you got to hit it hard to get the magic out of it, I reckon.
Yeah. And so it sort of suits higher paces on easy days. And I've been using it as that type of shoe. Like I'll put it on when I don't really have to recover, when I give myself more of a license on an easy day. And it's for like what it is on paper, a high stack of PEBA foam, it's actually really stable.
Yeah, it's really stable.
Yeah, it feels more stable than the Nimbus. So it's been it's a sleeper in here as well. We've still got sizes left in this that are sitting on the wall, and I'm thinking, how is this remaining here? Like we're not marketing this well enough because this is a bit of a unicorn out there.
It's one of the better long run shoes I've ever worn, and a license to pick up the pace. The weight's minimal. You can get going in the shoe. It's extremely stable. The upper, it's probably a little bit narrow in the forefoot with a taper, but it's not that bad. I find this one run true to size though. I found the Nimbus I went up half, and this I ran true to size. But look, that's just me personally. I'm not sure if that's the sample we were given as well. But Tom, you found these true to size, didn't you?
Yeah, true to size. Definitely not small.
Why are you wearing this for your long runs, Tom?
Remember, so I had a bit of a extensor tendon irritation with this shoe. Like I was doing long runs in it. I was doing a fair bit in it and loving it. But I think just one of the eyelets was like right over the big toe extensor tendon. It took 3 days to settle. I just haven't gone back to it, but I reckon I'll give it another go because you talking about it again is like making me reminisce about it. It's
you've had the extensor tendon thing a few times, haven't you? Like I remember you used to wear Solar Glide. Was it Solar Glide from Adidas?
Yeah, exactly. Adidas. Yeah, good memory. Yeah, Adidas Solar Glide gave me it. It's like a crease. I think it's a crease point in the shoe or something. So it's like when as the forefoot bends, it's like the shoe just creases right on over one of the tendons. Yeah. It's probably just unique to. I don't know anyone else that's had that problem.
No, I don't feel like that at all.
No.
Beautiful shoe though.
Yeah, I've been a fan. It feels light. It almost feels a bit too light for an easy day shoe. Like you're running along, you're picking your legs up quickly, and I'm thinking,
that's one of the main differences between that and the Invincible, because like the Invincible is actually pretty heavy. Like for a PEBA based shoe compared to this, which just feels so much lighter in hand and on foot.
Yeah. Yep. I've also been wearing the New Balance 1080 V13 sample, so it's production line sample, so it's ready to go. I'll show that one on a later episode, but and I'll talk you through it on that. But that's been actually like a real surprise for me because I didn't think it was going to work, but I've been really liking my running in it.
Okay.
But at the same time, I've been really enjoying my running anyway, and it's often that it correlates. Like you have good memory associations.
Two weeks ago, you were ragging on the Nimbus 25. You weren't having a great time, and now you're loving the Nimbus 25, or you at least like it. It's definitely your emotional state, Julian.
Yeah, it could be. I could probably put some bad shoes on now and still associate good times with them. but yeah, we'll get into that later down the track. I'll explain the differences and also what I like about it. But I've been in terms of workout shoes, because I'm not preparing for a race that I'm locked into one shoe, which was the Rebellion for Mizuno. I'm getting to play around with a few others. So this week I wore the Supercomp Elite for my Wednesday workout, and then on the Sunday I wore the Alpha Fly version 1. And so it's nice to feel like it's nice to test them all out and give them a shot. And I'm getting to know them a little better and work out what I like in a super shoe. I don't think there is a perfect one right now. Still, it's like the Alpha Fly still feels a little clunky to me, especially after having all these other lighter weight, smoother feels underfoot. The contrast between Super Comp Elite into Alpha Fly is like buttery smooth underfoot into pretty clunky, kind of segmented type shoe. I didn't really enjoy that too much. I don't think I'll be going back to the Alpha Fly again. I did hear, though, Bree sort of mentioned that when she's been running in the second version, because of the higher offset, a little bit more foam underneath the pods up front, it's a smoother feel. Would you agree?
So I've only tried it on as a sample a couple of times. I saw Bree's post through there saying it was the best super shoe she's worn. And look, I didn't feel that it was much far removed from the Alpha 1, except for it definitely wasn't as segmented as you said. You know, you could feel the difference between the forefoot and the rear foot on Alpha 1. They feel quite different. But I think something as simple as putting the foam beneath the pods more so on the second version, the surface area is still wide. Maybe the offset being, slightly higher pitch makes it a little bit cleaner as well. But it definitely felt like a less of a sweet spot on that shoe than it did on the V1. But obviously, consequently, it's probably more, more reliability to each step.
Yeah. So I might try the twos out. But I'll go back into the Elite for a few. I'll wear the Vaporfly for a few, and I'll start to work out what the potential marathon shoe would be.
Yeah.
So that's me. That's me in my week.
That's good. Yeah.
What about you?
Look, I've been rotating between the Nimbus 25. That's been my highest volume shoe. Out of about 100K weeks, I'm wearing that for about 70 of them, I reckon. Maybe 60. And I'm wearing... When I'm on the road, so we've got mainly trail in our backyard. On the roads, I've still been wearing the Cloud Monster. I love that shoe on the roads. It seems to work well for me on a harder surface. I'm struggling with pavement, but that shoe, look, a slightly less compliant shoe. I'm enjoying a more resilient shoe on the actual, so the opposite to probably what you would normally wear, like a really compliant shoe on the road. I've been preferring the resilient shoe on the road. So I've gone back to the Monster. It's pretty durable, isn't it? Like, I've had 250 Ks in this shoe, and it doesn't feel like it's worn at all. So it is a firmer midsole in that setting. For sessions or longer sessions and threshold type sessions, I've been using the Supercomp V3 Elite. It's perfect for that, like a slightly slower pace for longer durations. It's almost my favourite shoe for that type of workout now, I reckon. And I've worn the Alpha Fly for my workouts that have been a bit more upbeat, so closer to 1K reps or closer to 3-minute K pace. It's still, for me, the shoe that works the best. I like the Alpha Fly. But I haven't tried the second version for workouts yet, so that's probably something on the list to do as well. But the Endorphin Elite, I've worn it a few times. I really like it. I think I'd run better over 5K and 10K in that shoe. And as Tom said, I reckon maybe the lack of compliance and the ultra resilience to the foam might not give as much back at the end of the marathon potentially. So I'm looking forward to running a fast 5K or 10K in that shoe and really trying it out. It definitely feels better at the shorter paces. So fits well. In fact, I find it almost fits a bit wide for me in the forefoot. I don't know what you guys found about it. I found it pretty baggy in the forefoot, which is not a bad thing. Roomy. The rest of the upper is still relatively stable. I think Julian explained this on the last podcast. Like, it's just got the connection of the wraps on the midfoot to the laces that tends to make it pretty secure. So they've been the shoes I've been rotating to. Like, Super Blast I wear for a long run because it's the one shoe I can pick the pace up on pretty comfortably. So I wore that even the trails and the roads. Hybrid's well on both. It's really stable. Can't fault it. Put a heel pitch in it though. Still feels a bit better with the 4mm heel pitch. Do you put a heel pitch in it as well, Tom?
Yeah, I do.
Do you guys just have endless supply of heel?
I got
heel razors?
probably 100 floating around the house. So many.
Yeah, it's packets everywhere, mate.
Form products are the best as well.
Yeah, they absolutely are the best for sure.
Hey, Nitta, how many Ks do you reckon you've done in your Nimbus? Just curious to know what you reckon with durability wise with that one.
Yeah, so I'm bottoming out the 4 foot now on the first version. I actually sent an email to the ASICS guy. I don't ask for many shoes, but I love the shoes so much I've asked for another pair. It's 740 Ks, the Nimbus, and I felt the bottom of the ground at about maybe 650, so it's pretty good.
Okay, not too bad.
Yeah, more than I thought. So
yeah.
How are you getting so many Ks? You barely run.
Well, look, I've had the Super Blast and the Nimbus for ages now. I think we got the Super Blast back
that's right.
maybe I reckon October, and I had the Nimbus. Actually, no, I've had the Nimbus for 4 months now. I reckon so.
Yeah. Influencer life. Podiatrist influencers.
Yeah, well, that brings us to our next topic, doesn't it? So there's been a nice article floating around on the internet on case studies. I might pass over to Tom because you read it a bit more in detail. I actually read most of it last night, but it was essentially a paper looking at the relationship between navicular stress fractures and wearing super shoes.
So I actually haven't read it since it came out, so you're probably gonna be fresher on this than me. But I think it was five case studies.
Yep.
So I think the thing I listened to it more recently in the format of people like talking about it on socials or podcasts.
Yep.
And it even came out on, I think it was BJSM podcast, which is British Journal of Sports Medicine, which is fairly well regarded, and probably a lot of clinicians will be listening to it, which actually was a worry because with the author on there and the guy that interviewed him, they made it seem a lot more definitive, or like there was more evidence than there actually is. And as you could probably talk about, like the hierarchy of evidence, maybe you want to touch on that, like case studies versus a randomized control trial.
So that's exactly right. So these case studies, it makes this paper published basically an opinion piece. Look, I think what they're trying to do is make awareness that potentially, how like years ago when you moved from like a normal shoe to a minimalist shoe, they were trying to make a transition period notice, so you wouldn't just go from fixing all your knee pain by wearing a traditional shoe, wearing the minimalist shoe, and then suddenly you break your metatarsals, because that's the load change. So they're trying to say that with these changes of wearing super shoes, perhaps there's a risk attached to it. And they've used case studies, which is a lower form of evidence than, say, running a study which is, say, controlled and in a controlled environment, systemizing a group with no intervention and having an intervention and following them for a period of time and getting a really positive outcome, versus just literally taking people in the field and saying, hey, this is your experience with them. Let's compile these experiences and tell you that this is what's happening in the real world. So it may not be translating to the population because it's an opinion piece. So it makes it low evidence. But the problem with case studies is that people like reading about them and they're easy to translate, and sometimes they get more leverage because people will sort of try and, relate it to their own experiences. And that's what a lot of people have done with this particular study. So they used 5 case studies of these people who ended up with navicular stress, varying degrees of navicular stress fractures, who have different experiences. I think there were like 2 steeplechasers one was junior, one was actually both might have been juniors, 2 experienced runners, more recreational, and another adult male runner who had transitioned into using super shoes with no specific fashion. So in one case study, I think someone wore the shoe 3 times in their training load before they developed the navicular stress fracture. In 2 other case studies, I think, as you mentioned, Tom, they had pre-existing navicular stress fractures before they went into the super shoes. One was actually on the navicular site that was currently injured as well. So there were so many confounders to the study that don't have any association to whether the shoes were completely causative of the injury. There might just be a bit of an association to putting them on. The problem is that you put super shoes on for usually the faster workouts and intervals. And I think almost everyone in this study used them for the shorter interval work, or at least 4 of them did in the case studies. And faster running in itself is a risk factor for navicular stress fracture. Their hypothesis is that the compliance of the shoe and being really, really high stack you may lead to more compensations and translations through the foot, that the medial part of the foot might get more load on it. That's just an outline of what they were suggesting. So this whole study was basically an opinion piece to try and create awareness that these shoes might be a risk factor, which is a little bit sad, to be honest. I think, I think risk factors in running are pretty broad and varied, and you can almost make the argument that I don't know what you're like, Tom, but I would argue that I've seen less foot-related injury generally from the super shoes and lower leg-related injuries in the super shoes than I was when people were wearing traditional shoes like the Streak and the Adios, etc. as a general statement. I mean, look, I don't have, once again, that's an opinion. It's no different to case studies, but I reckon I can pull together 19 case studies of people that have moved into super shoes in an attempt to decrease foot and lower leg-related injuries for faster running.
Yeah, yeah. My opinion would be the same. Is like clinically, and this is what these case studies were based on. I think it was a sports medicine clinic, and they'd have patients coming in, runners with this injury, and especially I would have the opposite opinion potentially, like that these shoes would potentially reduce navicular risk as opposed to increasing risk. Just simply again, like it's opinion, but the paper, I'd almost like over case studies, I'd almost would rather see like a biomechanical study, which would actually really identify if there's actually a change in mechanical load with these shoes, which using kinematics or, a model to try and simulate where the load would go with these shoes. Because like you said, there's too many confounders when it comes to taking a history of a runner and like what they didn't tell you they might have changed or, but yeah, I think it'd be similar to metatarsal risk. Like we know that anecdotally that when you go to less shoe or traditional racing flats that we saw, a lot more metatarsal stress fractures. And I would say that the similar load, there's obviously some differences with the navicular. I think there are some more risk with some other planes of motion, I guess, at the foot level. But I would say it's still similar, close enough that if you're going to increase your metatarsal risk, you'll probably increase your navicular risk. And I think the super shoes might actually lower that risk for many runners.
But, we talk about importance of studies as well. I mean, I don't know if it's translated into retail, Julian, but like I have colleagues who I work with in Adelaide who are talking about this paper as super shoes now are a risk factor. So when it comes into the consultation through here, when I'm speaking to recreational runners, say someone, signed up their life to do the New York Marathon, they start their 6-month journey. Like at usually some point in time, they'll ask about the shoe. And of course, it's, part of the process of going into these shoes is getting people to run more, first of all. More running is a risk factor, but it's also important for handling a marathon and fitness and conditioning as well. But I'm not turning people away from this case study to super shoes because I don't think it's an it's an in-world, relative experience. It's purely an opinion piece. And I'd almost argue if you ran, a controlled study and you put people into racing flats, traditional ones, into super shoes and into a control shoe, and you follow them for 12 months, I don't think you'd see a difference. In fact, I'd hypothetically think globally you see less foot injury in super shoe. That would be my guess initially, just from 3 or 4 years of working with people who've been wearing them. So it's interesting people are just flagging it. I know some other podiatrists are flagging the frontal plane position being more dramatic in the super shoes. We see that all the time. You run a marathon, you see guys everting all over the place in the high stack shoes. Is that a risk factor? Yeah, for some things, but it probably decreases risk of other things as well. So it's complicated to have a study come out like that and flag it as a potential a reason to not promote that shoe to be worn. And for some people, it's better than others, but there's such a variation of super shoes now in terms of surface areas as well now and how stable each one is comparatively. You can almost put any foot into some sort of super shoe now with a bit more success than another super shoe if you get the foot matched to that profile and have good success.
Yeah.
Very good.
Anything to say on that? Or you just thinking Nerdburger in the background there, Bruce?
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys do the nerd stuff on this. The only time we're going to see this pop up is if one practitioner who doesn't really get involved in the shoe world or the running scene very often listens to the podcast that you listen to, Tom, and starts telling all his patients that they shouldn't be in these shoes. And then they come in and relay that to us, and they relay that to their training group. And as you know, practitioners are gods. So everyone, like, why would anyone else have a different opinion to them? That's the danger I see here.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's what annoyed. That's kind of was frustrating for me, like seeing that on a kind of a platform that a lot of practitioners probably listen to, and then if they're not into running, they probably will think, oh yeah, super shoes. I'm going to see so many more foot injuries in these super shoes.
Yeah. But BJSM on Twitter has turned into a bit of a tabloid, to be honest.
Yeah.
So it's tricky to be able to use that. But yeah, you don't want. Of course, the author's going to speak about their paper, but to be able to make it bigger than what it is in terms of a case study, it's you can't be doing that. So we can all do that. We can all make case studies up and compile them, and it's just that I'm surprised it gets published and gets so much more leverage than something that hasn't actually been discovered to be useful or not. It's just an opinion piece. But look, maybe they'll follow it up with a randomized control paper, and maybe they'll show us that, hey, look, navicular stress is a risk in high stack compliant super shoe. They don't have to be proved wrong, but I doubt it.
All right. What was the other study that you were going to tear apart?
Well, look, I think we'll come back to this one. This was the one where they were looking at the super shoes amongst the cohort of it was East African runners, wasn't it, Tom? And they were looking at the running economy, the variations of running economy when they went into different types of shoes. So they had a traditional racing flat, and I had a couple of different super shoes off memory. And unlike many papers where people respond to the super shoes positively in running economy, improving their running economy, which is pretty much across the board for most papers, this one showed a large variation of running economy change. So some runners decreased their economy, some increased, and some didn't change too much. And some increased in traditional shoes and some decreased in a certain type of super shoe. And there was large variation of this. So you dived into it a bit more than I did, Tom, off memory. So do you remember it a bit more detail?
Yeah, so there was 7 elite Kenyan distance runners and 7 recreational European distance runners. I think that they tested a control shoe, like a flat, compared to 3 prototype Adidas super shoes. They're unnamed, so I don't actually know which models they are, whether they're even on the market at the moment. But so I think it was an Adidas, possibly Adidas funded. But the crazy thing was, because I did a presentation for the the APOD, Australian Podiatry Association, last year on super shoes, and I remember there was a slide that I did that was collating all the studies out, and what I said was what was really novel about this footwear research around the super shoes was the fact that only 1 study out of 7 that were published looking at economy versus a control flat racing shoe, only 1 study had non-responders, and every other study, every participant in those studies had a benefit. It was just a matter of how much benefit. So the original study it was 18, but this was the Nike 4%, how they came up with the 4%. Every 18 of those runners had a benefit. It was either 2% or it was 6%. Average was 4%, but there were no non-responders. And so it was okay, so pretty much you can say, we're a super shoe, you're going to get a benefit. You just don't know whether you're going to be a super responder or just respond a little bit. Whereas this study, it showed especially it was wild with the Kenyan elites. One of the elite Kenyans had a reduced running economy by 11 point something % on the super shoes versus the flat, which is crazy. So he became really inefficient in the super shoe. And then there was another one that had an equal positive benefit. So he had an 11 point something % improved running economy, which is that's a crazy increase in running economy. So there was a 22% difference between, which is just, it's wild. So it was an interesting study in that respect, that I haven't seen any other study have such variability. And particularly,
it begs the question what these shoes are as well. Is this guy jogging in, is one of the super shoe categories of Boston 10 or Boston 11 that gets released or something like that? It's got 450 grams of weight behind it or something. So
I just think, it's interesting. There's more. I guess there's more. I reckon it kind of just says there's probably more to come and more to look into, and maybe especially with elites that are looking at performing well, like they need to really find what they respond to. And it may not be a lab study that'll tell them, because when I can't remember exactly, but I read the whole paper, and there was a bit about how so one of the runners that had really poor response to one of the shoes, he might have had reduced running economy by about 6%. But that shoe he raced in recently and ran like a 1 minute PB over the half. He ran like a 58-minute half marathon in a shoe that's supposedly on the treadmill. He had a reduced running economy by 6%. So I think that's where like the lab-based studies maybe don't fully translate out on the road. Whether they're not, but maybe these canyons weren't accustomed to running on the main thing I can think of is that maybe they weren't. Yeah, the treadmill was like they're just a bit awkward on the treadmill, and it's not translating to overground running.
But even like getting used to the gas exchange masks as well, like that could be quite foreign, initially as well. And like you always get better at those tests with time, and then becomes more reliability over time with more exposure to those tests as well. So. And look, of course, I know it was the guy we interviewed on here, Justin Jobert. He even looked at running economy for the super shoes at slower paces. So 16 k's per hour is the norm. He looked at slower paces and showed, look, all these super shoes do improve your economy, but it seems like not as big a difference when you go at the slower paces. And suddenly when they go out to these race paces of like 20 k's an hour and 21 k's an hour, where there are other limiting factors besides your running economy to the ability to run that pace, like your VO2, your velocity at VO2 max, and other attributes like that. But look, maybe your economy variability is quite large with different shoes at different paces as well. So, like I said, I feel like the Endorphin Elite matches me when I'm running close to the 3 minute K pace or better. I feel like the Alphafly is probably a bit better when I'm running close to 16 k's per hour, and that's perceptual, of course, not actually lab tested, but. There could be variability within pace as well, and like you said, that's in-field testing versus lab testing.
Yeah, I wonder, just like
you a bit scratchy there, Julian. Yeah.
I'm hearing that, so I'm thinking that's you.
Is it? Okay.
Or Tom. So from a retail perspective, like we've got 8 super shoes in the store right now. A customer comes in and goes, I want to know which one's right for me. Well, we can't, sorry, I'm getting that feedback. Or, what is that?
It's got to be you, I reckon.
Well, why can I hear it though?
I don't know.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, it must be you then, Tommy.
I'll take it out. Still hear it.
All right, I'll mute me.
It's gone.
Yeah, it's gone. It's you, Tom. All right. So yeah, like going back, there's say there's 8 different shoes in here, and the customer goes, "Which one's right for me?" We can't. We don't have like a VO2 testing set up.
Why don't you? What's that about? Is that just not economical to do?
It would be pretty fun. It would be an experience, that's for sure. Yeah. But I wonder if that person that measured 11% lower running economy in that shoe could tell. If you asked them afterwards and said, which one worked the best for you, could they pick and go, that was good, that was no good, this was okay? Because I reckon they could.
Exactly. I don't know if anyone's done that with all the papers. We see all this objective running economy stuff, but they haven't lined up something subjective next to it off memory, I don't think, in terms of an effort scale. And look, we do things simple, like, you do your lactate test, you put an RPE effort scale and a heart rate next to it. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see if people can comfort-wise perceive that they're moving better or moving easier subjectively to match the objective.
I would be really interested in that one. Yeah.
Because in your shop, you're selling subjectively, right? So hopefully, if that can match the objective, you're doing your job just by pushing people in the right direction of comfort, and if they feel like they're moving better. So cues,
we're having them consider the cues of of what we want them to feel, which is smooth, natural, light, fast, all those things we want. Like it's tough because you might get an alpha fly on that's super clunky feel, but give you the best running economy.
Yep.
Is that going to be worth it or not for you? I don't know.
True. Yeah. Well, look, I think, if someone's got better running economy in a shoe, you would assume the outcome will be better. But if it's not comfortable for them, does that play a role in reducing performance in another attribute or just motivation or something as well?
Yeah, but often relates. It's this conversation sort of related back to Galen Rupp a lot of the time, who would use science as one of the big determiners in everything that they did in that group. And when the Alpha Fly, Vaporfly came out, like let's say Galen tested so much more efficient in the Alpha Fly, even though it's heavier or whatever, that's the shoe that he'll wear. It sort of makes me wonder if that's the reason that he wore that victory that day on the track that tore his feet up, even though it didn't fit properly. Like, is it testing that's telling you to wear these, even though, in reality, they might not be the best option?
It's true. Tom, you love all the objective testing stuff and reading about it, but yet you're probably the most subjective runner in this group right now, aren't you? You don't even like using heart rate. You always run to feel, and nothing feels like a Vaporfly 1 for you. Sorry, the Vaporfly Next Percent 1 for you as well. So you're looking for that shoe that feels either the same or better again. And you're hoping that's the Vaporfly 3.
Yeah, so that's my benchmark. That's what I know. And I compare every shoe against that shoe. And perceptually, nothing has eclipsed it or even got that close. Maybe the Asics Metaspeed Sky 1, I felt kind of got close. I'd probably race a half marathon in that shoe happily. I cannot wait for Vaporfly 3.
What if you test in it in like an Alpha Fly, Tom, and you were better, like economy wise? Would you wear it?
Yeah. I might do a bit more training and just sort of feel it out and see if I get used to it. But if it still continues to feel unnatural and like it, no, I wouldn't race in it. It would need to feel as good on foot, even if the numbers told me it was a bit better. Yeah.
Would you do it, Julian? If your numbers were better but it didn't feel ideal, would you prefer the numbers or would the feel?
Feel, 100% feel, because the numbers aren't reality. The numbers are running economy, which doesn't that person that ran 11% faster or like more efficient in that shoe, that might not translate to any faster in a race or running, like in real life. So we caught up in those numbers right now.
Yeah, it's true. I agree. So what's exciting? So Tom, by the time we speak to you next, you'll have a Vaporfly 3, won't you, potentially?
I
or
hope
you'll
so.
have a stress fracture, one of those two.
I'm hoping I'll race Hamburg in the V3 Vaporfly if I like it. I mean, it sounds good. So I know we've been chatting about it, about the change. Like, it sounds like it's a bit softer. It sounds like it's got more stack. It's no heavier. It might actually be lighter. So it's more stack, softer, and lighter. Like, that all sounds like
good, doesn't it?
Awesome to me. So if it gets closer to version 1, so if it's softer, it probably will feel more like version 1. So with that compliance, because it basically, in version 2, I felt like I lost a little bit of that compliance out of the shoe. So if version 3 goes back to a bit more compliance or softness, then I'll be happy.
Absolutely. What are you looking forward to, Julian?
In the shoe world, what's coming out? There's not a great deal coming in the short term. I'm going to get myself an Invincible 3 at some point. Yeah.
You've been avoiding that. Has it changed a lot from V2?
There have been some changes. Yeah, the fit's different. The midsole is different as well. It doesn't feel as clunky, I don't think, anymore, like as massive, as oversized. It's still got a fairly wide base on it, and it's still got a lot of outer sole, but it just doesn't feel as big of a shoe. So I'm going to see how that goes.
Makes sense. Yeah.
What about you?
Not much exciting. I'm going to go through this rotation. I've been consistent for a while, so I won't change. But I'm actually considering just getting an Alpha 2 as well, just purely on your wife's Strava post. It was enough to get me Yeah, that's the best sales one is following the
You better get it
smoothest runner
from
in
me
your
then.
household. Yeah.
You better get it from me because that's marketing.
It's true. Yeah.
You got to reward that marketing.
That's true.
Sucking you in. Bringing the suckers in.
She needed to have like a little link on it as well, and then click here and purchase and pay, and absolutely. No, always follow the smoothest mover in your household. Always follow what she says.
You haven't seen me lately. I have been moving, covering it well.
Is Bree got a race coming up?
Berlin Marathon.
Ah,
of course.
All right.
So battle of the household.
Yeah, Pia will be a bit older, be able to tolerate the flight by then. It'll be a bit longer flight.
He is staying here. Pia is not going near an aeroplane ever again.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Yeah. Remember that
She's going to live at home.
All right, guys. That's a good one. It's enough for the day. Yeah.
Sounds
See
good.
you guys later.
See you guys.
Doesn't matter if you're white or black. Just show love to everyone you meet. Doesn't matter if it don't come back.